Hey good looking, welcome back to the channel. Thanks so much for joining me. Today we are going to be featuring a Did I Dupe It series. And today I'm featuring the comp shades in Sydney Grace's single eyeshadow formula, and I'm comparing it to her Love palette that she put out. This is the light version, by the way. I have the light version, right. So I'm going to do one eye with this palette and then one eye with this palette, and we'll see how close we get to some of the comp shades. But if you haven't already, I'm going to go ahead and link for you guys in the eye my video where I just show you guys some comparable shades that you might consider selecting. If you didn't want to pick up the Enduring Love palette, you just wanted like one or two singles to make your inspiration complete. So let's go ahead and get started without any further ado. I'm Kendra Morgan Official, and I put out content centered around single eyeshadows most of the time with a side of palette, so that's why one is featured today, makeup brushes, and sunscreen. So if you like that content, subscribe right now. It's free. I don't know why you haven't done it yet. Let's get started. I will wipe off my brush on this clean towel that I have over here halfway across the room. Just trust me, I will. And then I'm going to be putting this eye with the palette, with the comp shades, and this eye will have the palette. So let's get started. Let's dip into Honesty. You can't even see the end. That's so cute, Kendra. I'm gonna keep them like separated this way. And oh, I don't want to use the palette because I'm gonna be able to dip into it. So it's just kind of lazy-daxical. We're not gonna like get up really close. I did prime my eyes with the Urban Decay Eden Potion for my eye primer. And just feathering in some of that Honesty. It's the lightest shade in the palette for both the comp and the original. So I'm gonna pull it out just a little. Just give myself a little bit of pull it out. There you go. All right, wiping off my brush on this clean rag and dipping into the shade Juliet from the palette. So that is that shade right there. And spreading it over the other eye. Okay, looking at the shade difference, this is a little bit more of like a beige, and this one's a little bit more pink. I would say this is slightly deeper in hue than the Honesty shade, but Honesty does look a little bit more darker in the pan, to be honest with you. But to the naked eye, I don't think you'd be able to tell. My lights are blowing me out as well as the daytime lights, so just, you know, I don't know what to tell you, just take my cues. This is a little bit more neutral. This leans slightly warmer, although this looks more neutral and this looks more cooler, doesn't it? But that is actually how it is. Next, let's use, I believe this shade here is Tippy Taupe, yep, and let's deepen up the crease a smidge. What brush should I take? Let's do the Refer 16, dipping in just like that tip of the brush, tapping off any excess, go in, stay a little bit lower, but kind of bring it up and around. And also when I have no product left, just kind of drag it out just a little bit. Then dipping into the shade Robert, which looks a lot darker from the Enduring Love palette, but when I swatch them in comparison, I don't see very much difference in depth. So hopefully I haven't already messed this up. Doesn't look like I have. Just kind of bring it up and around. This is going to be a neutral look. I don't think that really it's going to be anything. I want to compare the John shade to the shade that I have selected as a comp shade. I feel like that would be something that is, you know, desirable. So the shade right here, I feel like that would be super desirable as a single. I don't have anything in my collection that really duped it that closely, so I'm gonna see if the shade that I've picked comes really close. Sometimes a swatch doesn't look very comparable, but when it's on the eyes, those differences kind of, you know, muddle in the background, and vice versa. Sometimes you think that they look almost exactly, you know, spot on comparable shades, or even like a dupe shadow, and then you go to put them on the eyes, and that one little tiny minor difference is what makes or breaks it. And I really notice it in shimmers, not so much mattes. Mattes, you can kind of, you can fudge a lot with a matte shade. So the matte shades are done. Let's use Deanna, and then we'll use John on the inner portion and see how well those kind of blend together to provide us a lid shade. And then for the comp palette, what am I going to use? I'm going to use Biscotti, which is one of the 2021 shades that they released. I think the other shade, Polished Silver, might have also been one of the 2021 releases. I'm not 100% sure, but might have been. And then I'm going to use Herky Bird as the shade for Deanna. So, okay, wipe off the P21. Let's start with, should we go from Deanna to John? Let's go John to Deanna. So let's go light to dark. And just upon examination, I'm seeing that there's like not very much getting onto the brush, but a lot of pigment is splaying. You can see it. See that? It's like it's an ultra shimmer. This really doesn't look the same on the eyes like it swatches. It swatches like it would be a very unique, beautiful shade to have to your collection. When you actually put it on the eyes, it almost looks ashy on my eyes. I wonder if in the deep palette it's a bit of a different shade. It's definitely kind of ashy on me, and that's pretty hard to do, but like I'm kind of noticing it right in here. Okay, now let's go and wipe off the brush, and let's dip into Biscotti for the other side. I'm going to do it, you know, side by side as we go. Okay, so this is picking up just like the shade John, so it does seem like they're probably pretty close in formula. Mirror. Okay, so, and it's not really picking up on camera, but this is very, very different in person. It really needs that green gray. Although it's kind of pretty the way it is. I just don't know, you'd have to buy 2 shades to equal John. You'd have to buy like a green shade to go with the Biscotti in order to get that kind of, oh, and it's not wanting to pick up at all on the brush. And this shade is almost a satin. It's not even a shimmer or a metallic. You can see right there, there's sore differences. Ooh, man. But when you see the swatches, it's like, okay, I could squint. I could, you know, maybe forgive that this is a little bit shinier, a little bit more metallic, and it's also got that kind of green hue to it. But then you go and put it on the eye. This is what I'm talking about, folks. Sometimes you just can't. And this is like, you know, formula, like brand to brand. I'm duping the brand with its own brand. So can you just imagine how far off I've been on some of my other palettes? I look back at 2021 and I'm like, are you ready to go? Okay, so that was kind of a dud shade. Yeah, definitely not as shiny or as shimmery. It's quite a bit more dulled in luster. Okay, now that we've determined that those are not anywhere close, maybe I could, yeah, this just doesn't, it's not even like picking up on the brush at all. Grab my setting spray here. It's like a ferment, and it definitely smells like something fermented. Yeah, just not happening. Maybe I can get a little bit more. I think the shade Biscotti itself is a little bit, leaves a lot to be desired. Yeah. Yeah, it's just not, it's the difference between a satin and a metallic formula, but there's nothing else in my, boy, that's awful. Okay, moving right along, let's use Deanna on the outer portion to deepen up and smoke. It's kind of that deep olive gray. Grab a little bit on that tip right there and just kind of splice it down in. Now, wiping off my brush, pick up a little bit on here. Boy, this is rough, folks. So this is the shade Herky Bird, which I felt like was a really, really good deep olive that complemented the Sydney Grace Enduring Love palette. Well, I don't know about that. I'm going to actually take this over just a smidge more so that it looks almost like a green. Yeah, okay, yeah. I'm working with ya. I'm working with ya. Oh, those shades look very, very comparable. This looks slightly more olive green. This is slightly more of a cool tone, like a blue-green. But you know what? Not bad, not bad. And just continuing to kind of ever so lightly feather inward. So I'm going to start out here, right? And then I'm just going to bring it in. With the Makeup Geek pointed crease, just kind of blend the edges of that dark shade. Just kind of blend it, like just a smidge, just a smidge. I'm gonna go ahead. Yeah, let me go ahead and add just a little bit more Deanna to this side. And I am just ever so slightly feathering into there and just kind of blending this metallic green into the darker shade. Do have a little bit of fallout, and I don't feel like I have like any, almost none. There's like, I guess a couple specks right in that area, but blend this down and around. Okay, it's a little bit dark. Yeah, this shade actually gets pretty dark. Just going to kind of grab this clean Smith 247 and just gently buff around this edge here. Kind of almost taking the excess. I'm going to go ahead and, for this side here, dip into Juliet just a little bit and just kind of lay it over. Just to kind of tone it down just a little bit. Wipe off that brush and grab Honesty, do it to the other side. Kind of want to keep this even, Steven. Ooh, see, Honesty actually, it kind of comes across as a little bit darker. And I'm kind of bringing it back down and around. Since we did kind of drag a little bit of that shadow outward, we can kind of bring it down and around. That definitely looks good. All right, looking nice, looking nice. Inner corner highlight, really the only one that I see with that would be that pink Romeo shade. So let's add just like a little inner corner highlight. Gonna wipe off the Makeup Geek crease brush, dipping into Romeo. Let me see, make sure I got, yeah, it's, you know, I feel like and then just kind of blend just a little bit up in here. I really don't want much of a highlighted brow because I almost kind of want a smoky look. All right, wipe that off, dipping into Aim High is what I believe the shade is. Yep, Aim High, that's a single. And just kind of buff and blend that into the inner corner. Yeah, very comparable. Don't really see, if you use it kind of as like a highlighting shade, you really can't see the pink hue, and that Romeo has that bubblegum pink to it, so actually I kind of like the Aim High just a little bit better. I'm gonna come right up underneath this brow bone and just hit it just a little bit. See that right there? Just a little bit, like not much, not much. All right, not much. Okay, back out with the Smith 242 and then reblend a little bit of that Honesty shade, and then flip the brush over and blending a little bit of that Juliet shade. So we don't have much of the brow bone highlight. We have mostly kind of that smoky look. So there it is. That is the final look. I really am very pleased with, I would say, about 75% of the shades in my comp palette. However, I did not hit the mark on this this John shade, which I thought for sure I had something in my collection like that. I definitely don't. Mattes came okay, I would say decently, between 75-85 percentile. I got pretty close on the mattes. Let me just show you guys, show and tell both of them here. All right, let's not leave anything out. As far as the shimmers go, yeah, the John shade, if you are solely exclusively looking for that John shade right there, Sydney Grace, as far as I'm aware, does not have that kind of like that green silver. So you might be after this palette on the next sale, unfortunately. Even my husband could tell the difference between the looks, and even it's just the finishes aren't even the same. I could go greener, but it wouldn't serve the same purpose. This is a light shimmer, and I only really have like deeply saturated green shimmers in the Sydney Grace's shades that I have. I feel like I own every single Sydney Grace shadow that they have put out so far, and they're singles. However, I don't own the Mountain Trail and the Raspberry bundle. When it was available as a bundle, I thought about getting it, and then I was like, no, because you can only buy it as a bundle, and it's basically like buying a palette, so why would you do something like that? So I didn't buy it, and then they broke it up into singles. I asked if they were going to continue selling them. I think it was at the end of 2020, and they said that they weren't sure if they were going to keep them in stock, or if they, sell out, then they're done. So I don't know if they just have them in stock. They're just haven't sold out yet, and when they do, they'll be gone. But I didn't see anything in there that reminded me of any of the shades that would be comparable to John in the comp palette. What do you guys think? How did I do? Leave a comment down below if you guys haven't checked out how I got to this and some comparable shades that you could look at in Sydney Grace singles. That should be linked in the iCards, and you guys can check that video out as well. As always, thanks so much for joining me this episode, and I cannot wait to see you in my next video. Bye.
With you, I can be sad with you.